There we go. These YouTube lives, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So I have to get this going before I go on TikTok. My audience is on TikTok, so that's why I'm always looking up there. So I just started it. I'm just waiting for people to turn up. Hello, hi, I am. You've been here before many times. Welcome back. Stacy Newton, Marie, all your names look really familiar. Dang Doo, I don't remember that one. So I'm just looking at all your handles. Anyway, while we're waiting for people to turn up, I'd love to know where you're from. I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. Gorgeous sunny day today, but windy, windy, windy. And I've been wearing my hair down, and literally it all blew in my face earlier. I couldn't see a thing, so I just walked the streets with Braille. Okay, Los Angeles. Hi, LA. I love Los Angeles. Been there many times. But it's so spread out. I never know. I always feel like I'm missing something. Whenever I go to LA, I don't know where the hub is. Where's all the excitement? Is this it? Am I in the right place, or is it somewhere else? I never know where to go. So maybe you can tell me, give me some pointers. Dallas, Texas. I always say Texas is calling to me lately. I'm definitely going to get down there one day. When work settles down a bit, I get more organized with what I'm doing with work because it's just so busy right now. But yeah, I'll get some free time. Hopefully next year I'll be able to do some traveling. So where are you from? Yeah, I want to go to Texas. Where else? I should probably go somewhere like Alabama too. I never think about going down there. I don't know why, but I should probably go and check out the South because I love those Southern accents. I know I'd come home talking like that. I just know I would. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yeah, maybe I'll go there. I don't even know how to do the states. If I was to do a whole bunch of them, do I just rent a vehicle and just go everywhere? Georgia, Virginia. Okay, how many people? Oh, we've got over 100 people. Okay, so we'll get going. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on my website, it's bratbusters.com. You can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. You're on that behavior board too. That's what makes it work. So Sarah H says, you say to ignore tantrums, but what if my 3-year-old starts hitting and throwing stuff during the tantrum? That comes up pretty much every day in a life. You restrain them. If they get violent, you just hold them. Just hold their hands or just restrain them however you can. And you just have to stop them from being violent. They could hurt themselves, someone else, damage property. So when they're little, by the way, you don't do that with teenagers, but you do that with younger ones. You restrain them. And then as soon as they calm down a bit, let go. But don't say anything. You're still ignoring them. They will eventually learn. It is rough. They're going to get worse. For sure, they're going to get worse. But you got to be willing to go through the storm to get to the rainbow. Without the storm, there's no rainbow. It's just the way it is. If the kids are out of control now and you're not willing to go through that storm because it's going to get worse, it's not going to get any better. You have to be willing to go through the tough stuff. Okay. So what do you do with teens with the same behavior? This is a slow burn with teenagers. You're not going to solve it in one day. It's going to take a few months with teenagers. So if they're at that level with you and they don't respect you, you got to work on mutual respect. You got to bond with them, connect with them. I actually just did a video yesterday on how to connect with your teenagers. Wait a minute. Was that teenagers or just all ages? How to connect with your kids? I can't remember. But anyway, with young ones, you discipline them to get respect. With teenagers, you get respect and then you discipline them. But yeah, they do tend to calm down when you learn how to connect with them. So, and you don't address everything with teenagers. You only address the big stuff. Let the small stuff go. Pick your battles with teenagers. You have to give them more leeway. Okay, they're exercising their young adulthood kind of idea, right? So they're going to make some mistakes and that's okay. You're awesome. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. You're welcome, Sarah. Okay. I'm glad someone asked about that with the teens because I just said you don't do that with teens. And then I thought, should I just go on about that? And then you asked, how can I teach my daughter to stand up for herself? I don't know how old she is. By the way, I'm going to mention this. I mentioned him before. I'm trying to get into this. It's a book. I'm not pushing this in any way. I don't know anything about it. It's called 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. I know it's backwards, but I keep saying I'm a fan of his, but I find him hard to listen to. He's just kind of not a real happy guy, and I'm a very positive kind of person. I'm very drawn to positive energy, but he's just so darn smart. But he said a couple of things in there I thought was kind of interesting. I'm going to have to read these chapters. One of them was, do not let your children, it was like 12 rules for life, and this is rule number 5. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. But how interesting. Don't do anything that makes, don't let your kids do anything that makes you dislike them. I'm gonna have to read that one. Isn't it? Does anyone know what he means by that? I thought that was interesting. There was another one about kids. Do not bother children when they are skateboarding. I don't know what he's going to say about that, but what I'm thinking is with that, I haven't read the book yet. I just wrote down the rules. What I'm thinking with that is when they're in their own world and they're having fun, let them be. Like, yeah, I'm not too sure where he's going to go with that, but like respect their fun time. I don't know. Respect when they're in their own world. I don't know what he's going to say about that. Does anyone else like him but find him? I always kind of feel worse when when I listen to him talk. I'm very affected by energy. So if someone has real positive energy, I get really, it's infectious to me. I'm very in tune to people's energy. So yeah, but he's a smart guy. So yeah, I do listen to him. I just have to, in small doses. Anyway, I'm interested to see what that says. 7 years old. Okay, so I asked you, stand up for yourself, 7 years old. Against bullying, I do role playing. If it's anything social, like how to make friends, how to stop bullying, you do role playing, okay? So you pretend you're her and she be the other person and you just show her how to stand up for herself. But I don't know the situation. Is it bullying or so just making friends? Or I don't know what's going on there. That's a big one. What to do with jealousy between siblings, toddler, child, and preteen? Well, it's a big question because it's big ages there. And also, I don't know how they're manifesting that jealousy. Okay, I'm just going to give you some really general TikTok advice. When you have kids, family harmony does not come with one-on-one time with each kid. It comes with family group time. There's almost always stuff that you can do as a family together. Even if you've just got that toddler sitting in your lap and you've got the other kids, you're playing a game with the other kids, and then the toddler's helping move. It's doing stuff together as a unit that bonds everybody together. That's how you bond. You can still go off and do one-on-one time, but the main stuff, if they are having sibling rivalry, I wouldn't even do that. I would focus on the family unit stuff. I just did a video yesterday, and it was on. I got to read it here. Just a sec. It was on. If you've been watching me the last couple days, I've told this story about how I bonded with my kids. Just crazy stuff I used to do with my kids, and how it's so important to have fun with your kids. And I didn't want to talk about that kind of stuff a lot because I don't want to make people feel bad because I really did just wallow in parenting. But I worked for that. I worked for that. Just don't know why that's coming in. There we go. Okay, because I haven't got my app open. I'm looking at the website for TikTok. I'm just gonna look at my video, just see which one it was so I can elaborate on it. Come on. Okay. How I had fun with my kids. That's all it was. I just did that was my second to last video I did yesterday. How I had fun with my kids. I go into the importance of bonding with them just in a silly world, just having fun with them. And when you do it as a group, they all tend to bond together too. It makes them closer. So that's my best TikTok and general TikTok advice for that. Sibling rivalry with different age groups and any kids anyway. Assignment. Is that a question? Assignment. What did I say something? I don't know what you mean by that. Thank you. I was going to say tie. It's thank you. Right? Okay. Yeah, that is really important that you bond with your kids as a unit. No, I won't go on about it. I was going to go on about why it's so important, but that's okay. Never mind. What age should your children be cleaning up after themselves? That's a loaded question because what kind of home do you have? I'm a minimalist and I'm very organized. So when I said to the kids, clean up your room, it took under 2 minutes. So I made everything very easy and doable. If you have a lot of clutter around, a lot of stuff, and the house isn't that clean, expecting a 3-year-old to keep their room clean isn't fair. But everything was clean to start with, so they just had to sort of, like if I said, go clean your room, make their bed, they had to hang up the one item, like I did laundry every day, so they had to hang up that thing. And there was always an empty hanger, so they knew where everything went. And when I said to put their toys away, I did a toy rotation system, so they didn't have very many toys out. Also, I never asked them to organize at my level. Like when I said to make, they had to make their bed from the age of 3. And when they made their bed, it was messy as anything, but I always went in afterwards and made it. So they could have cared less. They didn't care. But then their books, if they put their books away, I would go in later and color code them and make them all pretty. So I did the extra, but I made it, I set them up for success. I made it very easy and doable. It's easy to maintain a clean, organized space. It's hard because I maintain clean, I don't clean dirty. So that, and I'm not saying you have a dirty home, but if there's a lot of stuff around, it's overwhelming for children. It's too much to ask for children, very young children, to clean up. 7-year-old swears, put on my behavior board. It's free on my website, bratbusters.com, and you put down no bad words. That's it. Every time there's a bad word, there's a consequence. If they're saying the F word all day long, then you say, look, I didn't like that. We'll discuss it after dinner. After dinner, say, what would have happened is the consequence would have been you clean up after dinner, the dishes. But because you swore and said a lot of bad words all day, so now it's 24-hour media blackout. You go right to the second consequence. There's always 2 consequences for the kids. The first one is a positive action. If they do something bad, you get them to do something good. If they won't do that good deed, then you default to the negative deprivation. You take something away, like media, something like that. How to explain to my child that grades aren't everything? Yeah. I don't even want to talk about that. I don't know why. Why don't I want to talk about that? Because you're up against society, like society, grades are measurable, and a lot of, and schools are there to push grades. That's their job. And it's sort of, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I don't know what to say about that. I never focused on it. I focused on behavior. I went straight to the behavior. That's all I ever went to. If every child was as easy as and polite as yours, school would be a dream. I got that every time. That was my thing. And they did good in school, but also I had a system. They had to do homework. They never had to get straight A's, but they had to do what was expected of them, not even do their best all the time. If my daughter was so busy, she had dance and she was in a million different things. So if there was a big project, I wouldn't make her work on it for 8 hours on a Sunday. I didn't focus on them. So, and they actually both did very well in school, but I didn't focus on it. So therefore they didn't, because I was the leader. And if the teacher would say something, I said, I don't agree with the teacher. But at school, you got to listen to the teacher. They're the boss at school. So we'll lose their subscription benefits soon. Okay. If you shouldn't pay kids for chores, how do you teach them money and how do they earn money? They don't earn money. Okay. I did a video. Let me see how far back it was. If you look up bratbusters.com, and what did I call it? That one went viral. Much to my surprise, I got interviewed all over the world for that one, from TV and that. I didn't even think it was that interesting, but it was called, where is it? Sugar. Where I must have put it. Oh, I must have pinned it. Anyway, it's allowance versus chores or something. And I go into great detail about that. I believe children just deserve to get money just because they're alive. So I just gave my kids allowance, but they also had to do chores, but I never pay for chores. They're completely separate. Sorry, I live downtown, sorry. Sorry about that. But yeah, children deserve to earn money. I want to find that video. I'm just looking for it here. I think I actually pinned it because it was such a big one. Yeah, it'll be pinned. It's one of the 3 pinned videos at the top of my profile there. And it's about allowance versus chores or something like that. And it goes into great detail about how you manage allowance, how you manage money with them, because you want to teach them how to manage money. Every child deserves to learn how to manage money. Should I tell that story? Never mind. No, I don't feel like telling stories tonight. I got a good one about a lesson I taught my kids about money. But anyway, if you're really interested, you can let me know. But yeah, chores, you live here, you just have to clean up after yourself. Like I would never pay for chores. I just wouldn't. Like no one's paying me to scrub my toilet. I thank you, like listening to you. Very nice. Oh, thank you very much. Okay. My 8-year-old is very negative, says his day is ruined for little things. Advice, please. So he's a negative Nelly or a negative Ned. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. What kind of example are you setting? Like, I'm a real kind of a cheery person. So, and so was my mom, was very cheery. So it kind of made me cheery in a way. Like, I don't know. Like, what kind of environment has your child got? Do you talk about negative stuff? Um, yeah, I never heard my mom say anything negative. I was more inclined to talk about negative stuff, but I don't know what kind of environment what kind of parent are you, in other words? So I would have to assess that. If you want my help, you can hire me for that. Okay. How can I help? How can I make my kids have interest in learning? 4 years old. You can't. You just have to teach your kids. You got to do what you need to do in life. It's just the way it is. You got to teach them self-discipline. Self-discipline is about learning how to do the tough stuff. So it's not that they have to have an interest in it. They just have to learn. They just got to do it, and it becomes a habit. That's like saying, how do we teach people how to have an interest in scrubbing the bathroom? Well, no, I love it. I love cleaning, but I mean, not everyone's going to. You just got to do it anyway, right? So it's one of those things. You don't know. I don't think that everyone should. I don't think you should try to teach your children to like everything. I used to tell my kids, you got to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. That you got to earn the fun stuff. I sort of taught them that. They didn't think anything of it. They just did it. They just did what they had to do because they understood there's just certain things you just need to do. So, and like the odd time they'd say something like, why do I need to learn this? And I used to say, school isn't about learning stuff you're ever going to use. Like, you may never use any of it. The gold is what you get at home. Money management, manners, all that, the social. I'm going to teach you all that stuff. Sex education, nutrition. You get all the big stuff at home. But the other stuff is all the academics that you may never use, literally may never use it. But it teaches you how to be structured, turn up to a job in future. So it's teaching you how to be disciplined. That's what I used to tell my kids. So you may never use that information ever in a million years. I don't think I used anything I learned in school because I was so busy studying kids outside of school. That was my interest. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, teaches you self-discipline. That's all. Okay, how to teach stranger danger to a social butterfly 3-year-old boy. That's all about, I call that sex education, but it's really about safety. So I taught my kids that these are your private parts and only you can touch them and I can touch them. And if anyone ever talks about them, shows you theirs, talks about theirs, no one else can ever talk about private parts with you. And also, if anyone ever shows you their private parts, you tell me right away. There's no secrets. They may even say to you, don't tell your mom and dad, or I may kill your dog or something. I told my kids all that. I would rather scare them safe than not scare them and have them be vulnerable out there in the world. They didn't think anything of it. Oh, okay. So they were, and I said, it's okay to say no to an adult. It's not usually a stranger. It's usually someone they know, and they're usually groomed for it. So it doesn't usually happen right away, or else it can be a real quick flash in somewhere, like just being flashed. So anyway, I've worked with tons of kids who've been abused in every way. And it's amazing how fast that happens, but they're usually groomed. So anyway, yeah, it's not usually strangers. Sometimes an older sibling of a friend. So they go over to a friend's house, and it's an older sibling. Sorry about this, but it's true. It's just the facts. I know when people hire me for stuff, because I do crisis work too. I don't talk about it on here, but they'll say, you'll never believe what happened. And I'm like, yeah, I will. Or you'll never guess what happened. Yeah, I might be able to, because it's amazing what's out there. There's a lot of creeps out there. Why has my kid been locked up in their room? 14 years old, say they're stressed about making friends. Sounds like a normal 14-year-old to me. They're going to go through stuff and they're going to scare the bejeebies out of you. I'll be honest, teenagers scare the bejeebies out of me. They're extremely unpredictable. So the only way to, I don't know what's going on there. I don't know I don't know what kind of parent you are. Have they got friends? Have they not got friends? Are they dating? Are they sexually active? Have they got a gaming console in their room? I don't recommend that. I think the gaming console should be out in a family area. So, if they're just in their room, they shouldn't just be in their room all day with a phone. They should have to be out in a family area. So anyway, I got a whole bunch of stuff around that. If you want my help with that, you're going to have to hire me, because there's so much. I need background. I need context around that. But yeah, teenagers they can get very insular and not want to be around you. That's very common. I'm not saying that it's okay. There's stuff you can do to help that, but it's very common. How to lessen the frequency of tantrums. The more you ignore them, the less they are to happen. But it takes time. It's a slow burn kind of thing. Also, they usually don't really stop having tantrums till 3 to 4 years old. That's when they learn hey, wait a minute, there's another way to go about this. So yeah, you're just gonna have to wait them out. But even with toddlers, they can learn very quickly. Like our kids, my son had tantrums, my daughter didn't. But my son's tantrum would have lasted a lot longer with dad than it would have with me from a very young age. Their dad, he's a great dad. He was just more the pleaser parent, the type that, he just wasn't into discipline. I was more the, yeah, that's going to work. So he just learned that, hey, this isn't going to work with mom. So they learned from a very young age. But, he went through it. You can't stop them. They're going to keep having them. You just manage them and they will eventually peter out. If not, time out, how do I correct him? If he's under 3 years old, it's consistent corrective action, because toddlers who are 1 and 2 year olds, they learn through repetition. They don't learn through words. None of these mini therapy sessions, God, even when I say that, I get mad. That's what I'm up against these days. These mini therapy sessions discussing all their big feelings and big emotions. It's a bunch of garbage. Don't do it. They don't learn that way. They learn through actions, consistent corrective actions. Toddlers are not about words. If they're 3 years old and over, you use my behavior board. It's free on my website, and it teaches them that there's rules and consequences. And you just do 1 rule per week, because that's all you can handle when you're learning this. I don't. If I went into your house, I've never used a behavior board. I would deal with everything in one day, only because I'm level 10 with what I teach. You got to learn level 1, level 2, level 3, right? It's a process. What age do you think a toddler should actually identify letters and numbers and read? Those are milestones, educational milestones you're asking me. I'm not going to answer that one. There is no answer for that. There is no answer. And I don't, you're asking me about accelerated learning. I don't believe in it at all. I've got a million reasons why, but it's very polarizing, my opinion on accelerated learning. And everything I talk about is through experience with kids. So, I've met lots of kids who've been accelerated and it hasn't gone well. So it hasn't gone horrible, but it's not an advantage in any way that I've ever seen. So yeah, I don't like it. Don't let them be kids. It's a toddler. Let them play in the mud. That is what they need. They need to just be a toddler. They've got how many years of school coming up? Don't accelerate them. Yeah, that's a very polarizing opinion. But I'm pretty set on that one. What time is your live over usually? So you want me to get off here now? I don't have a schedule with my lives. I just work around my clients, right? Because I coach. So I just work around that. And I've got other stuff I'm working on. So I don't have a set time at all. You know what I should do? They're getting harder and harder to do every day because I'm getting busier. So what I might do is I might start scheduling them, but then I can't. Then I have no freedom. Like I have to have that time, and my whole week is sort of scheduled. So that's what's so fun about these. I can just squeeze them in when I'm in the mood for it and when I've got time. So yeah, I don't know if I'll ever schedule these again. I used to. I don't think I'll do it again. Maybe I will. Ignore the behavior, not the child. Works like a charm. Yeah, we're ignoring the crazy. Like the child. Now, if a child is damaged by you ignoring their tantrums, you got bigger fish to fry. Children who know they're loved, that would not damage them in any way at all. They just learn, hey, wait, when I'm crazy, I don't get any attention. They don't feel unloved as a result of it, unless there's other stuff going on. Like I said, if that damages them, you got bigger fish to fry. There's other stuff going on. Oh my God, people come after me. Oh my God, whenever I say ignore tantrums, the hate. Oh, it just comes flying out at me. Now, you know how much I love that because it means I'm shaking things up. So, but anyway, yeah, people just, and I know what I'm up against. I'm very aware of it. So that hasn't slowed me down. I'll tell you that much. Okay. And you think about this too. If you're going to take parenting advice from someone, there's 2 things I would look out for. Number 1 is they have to have finished the job. Have they finished raising their own kids? Have they lived with teenagers? Do they know where they're headed? Do they know if what they're doing is going to set them up for teenage years? They have to have finished the job. There's no way I'd take advice from someone who hasn't lived with teenagers. That's number 1. Number 2 is I didn't learn a lot with my own kids. I learned it more with all the hundreds of kids I worked with all sorts of challenges. They have to have had experience with hundreds of other kids with all sorts of challenges. They have to have that tool belt, that experience, because it is based on experience. I'm sure there's lots of other people out there like me. But you be careful who you're taking advice from, because if someone just has young children and they haven't got tons of experience with other kids with all these challenges, What are they talking about? How do they know what they're talking about? Like it just, I don't know. I don't follow anyone else. I don't know, but this is what people tell me, right? My clients tell me this. So anyway, be very careful with that. Be very careful where you take advice from, because if you take advice from someone who hasn't got that huge wealth of experience with kids, it's like taking financial advice from someone who has $10 in the bank. Don't you want to take it from someone who has millions? You see, it is experience based. It just is. So, and I'm sure there's lots of other people out there with tons of experience. So that's who I would look for. Experience. They know what they're talking about. It's just different. We're talking about people here. So yeah, it takes experience and years to figure kids out. If he starts destroying stuff and running away in a tantrum, what do I do? You restrain him, catch him and restrain him. If he's about 8 and older, you can't. You got bigger fish to fry. If he's at that level, if he's 8 and over, 7, 8 and older, then you got to work on your leadership skills pronto. But if he's really young and you can still physically manage him without it being horrible, then you just restrain him. You have to hold them. You restrain them when they're violent. That's what you do. You have to. They can hurt themselves. They can hurt property. They can hurt someone else. I tried taking the console out of their bedroom. Has a couple of friends, but don't include him. I don't know what you mean. Should you only put one behavior on the board at a time per person? Absolutely, yes. One behavior per week, per person. One rule per week, per person. Only one. It's a lot to deal with. So, yeah, one per week. It's not about that behavior even. It's about your leadership skills. Can you follow through with that? You have to be consistent. Could you be consistent if you had 5 rules on there? No, not when you're learning. So week 1 is one behavior board, one rule. Week 2, one behavior board, one rule. So now you have 2 rules. Week 3, now you have 3 rules. You can actually stretch that out. You can do 2 weeks with like week 1 can be 2 weeks if you're really struggling, but you got to be consistent. What about children with autism? That is strictly coaching. That's more of a specialty. I only deal with that in coaching. It's like a lot of teenage stuff and abuse and crisis work. I only do that in coaching. I don't discuss that on TikTok. It would be really irresponsible of me because you can't, TikTok's kind of general and you want to be able to give kind of general advice. I can't do that with autism. Each child's different. It's not one session either. It's minimum 3 because we throw mud at the wall, see what sticks, and then the next week we assess it. The next week we assess it. Okay. If I restrain him, I feel like I'm not ignoring the tantrum anymore. Yeah, you are. You're not looking at him or talking to him. Yeah, you still are. And you talk about the positive consequences. Okay, there's always 2 consequences for the kids. There's not for you because you know you're going to do it. This is because kids aren't always going to do the positive action. There's 2 consequences for the kids. The first one is a positive action. So you get them to do something. So let's say he hit his little sister. There's consequences. He has to give his favorite toy to her for the next hour or whatever to play with. That's the positive action consequence. He did something mean. Now he has to do something nice. Okay. So that's the first one. You can't always get them to do something. That's why there's a second one. Then you take something away. You say, okay, you didn't do the first one. So now it's going to be 24-hour media blackout. Do you understand? It could be that or something else, but you're taking something away. You can always take something away, but you can't always get them to do something. And you'd rather get them to do something nice rather than just take something away. It's all negative. I don't like that one, but it's what we resort to if we have to, right? That's all you've got. You got to do it. But anyway, and once you've said that, by the way, you didn't give her your toy like you were supposed to do. So now it's 24-hour media blackout. Okay, I'll give it to her now. Too late. It's already started 24-hour media blackout. Not fair. Well, you'll know next time, won't you? Like, you got to stand by this. They learn. It gets ugly, by the way. It gets real ugly. Because if they've been in charge in the past, they're going to fight you. They're going to try and get that back. They're going to remember the old you. So it's going to get ugly. Expect that. That's normal. That's why you only do 1 rule per week. Rule no fighting. What to do when they have already done the positive action but keep fighting. Okay, that's when they repetition. Then you go to the negative deprivation. Say, hey, you're still fighting. By the way, with fighting, you keep them separate. You know, hey, you go to your room for an hour, then we switch and you go to your room, or you come with me in the kitchen. You got to keep them separate. Make it a weekend project. So yeah. How old should my child start on the behavior board? That starts at the age of 3. Do you remind them or give them a deadline? So what do you mean if they break a rule and then they've got to do something? You always get, it's worded something like this. You vacuum the living room within 15 minutes of being asked to do so. So I say, okay, so in 5 minutes, we're going to be vacuuming, okay? And then if they don't come running, you just ignore them. And then it say, okay, vacuuming starts now. I don't care where they are, if they're doing it or not. You just stand there with your watch. You always look official. You're just standing there, beep, 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 15 minutes is up. Okay, you didn't vacuum. So now it's media blackout. No, I'll do it now. Well, it's too late. Media blackout already started. Not fair, not fair. Well, you'll know next time, won't you? Calm as anything. Calm. It's like a business transaction. This disciplining is a business transaction. If you allow emotions to come into it, they win. Yeah, there's always a deadline. There's always, it's always quantified or qualified. Is that right? Qualified? Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, so it's like if they have to clean up their toys if they're little, they have to put 5 toys away. 5 within 5 minutes of being asked to do so. And you always time everything. Okay. And you only ask them when it's like, you don't do it when you're at the store. Okay. Like you have to do it when it suits them, when it's doable. So yeah, you got to be in charge of all this. Be organized. Look, the more organized you are, the more official you look. And I never care what they're doing. I care what you're doing. I don't care if they pick up any toys. Don't remind them. They refuse to do it. And you're just standing there timing. La, 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 la. That's up to them. Let them make the choice whether or not they're going to do it. That's the whole point of this. You're pointing them in the right direction, but you're not making them do anything. You see, that's important that they learn the self-discipline. You said, is this okay? WYZ. Is what okay? My toddler too throws whatever is in his hands when he doesn't get his way. We tell him he's lost it. Well, don't say anything. Just say no and put it away. No and put it away. And I would suggest to put it away probably for the rest of the day. It's going to get ugly. It has to get ugly before it gets pretty. You got to be willing to go through that storm to get to the rainbow. Like, I'm never afraid of a scene. To me, behind every scene is a lesson. I welcome them. Hey, you're going to have a scene with me? Bring it on. Because I know the lesson is in my calmness when they're having a scene. That is the lesson. The lesson is, look at me. Look how calm your leader is. They learn really quickly. Do you know what's interesting is when I used to work with hundreds of kids, all volunteering. And the teen stuff wasn't all volunteering anyway, but the younger kids was. Anyway, and I never was handed an easy kid, not once ever. In 51 years of looking after kids or working with kids, no one ever said to me, here's an easy one, Lisa. Not once, not ever. So they were always challenging. They had challenges because they knew that was my thing. I could handle these kids. Anyway, the more difficult the child, the more feisty, snotty, and snarly they were, the quicker I could get their respect, the quicker I could turn them around. Why do you think that is? Because children desperately need, crave, and want leadership. And the more snarly they are, the more they're not getting it and they desperately need it. They're a deficit. They're running at a deficit. That's why they're acting so rotten. They're just not getting what they need. When they come up against a strong, calm leader, they almost go like this. Oh, finally. Woo, thank God. Like they're relieved. They're getting what they need. They all need, crave, and want a leader. Oh, step kids, I don't discuss that. That's coaching. That's multi-level, layered. Yeah, there's too much going on there. I don't discuss that on TikTok. How to handle a mean child, 8-5. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what they're doing, so I don't know. A 9-year-old gets super mean when she doesn't get her way. Do I give her consequences or ignore it? Yeah, there's a consequence, but I don't know what she's doing. Like you have to put it on the behavior board. What is she actually doing when she gets mean? And then you say no, such and such. Does she hit? Does she throw? Say no hitting, no hurting other people. Usually it's no hurting other people, but you can't. That's not about words. That's about physical stuff. Or it's no bad words. You got to be careful with all that stuff. You can never put attitude down there because it's useless. You can never battle an attitude. A child with a bad attitude does not have a leader as a parent. You got to work on your leadership skills, and you do that all through their actions, not their attitude. You do that through their words and their actions, but not their attitude. You never address attitude. Their bad attitude just means you're not a leader. That's all it means. That's what it says to me, is that you're not a leader. And you got to work on your leadership skills. Their behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting. It just is. Their basic personality isn't. Their basic tendency isn't, but their behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting. And as is their attitude. Teenagers can be a little bit more up and down, but their hormones are kicking in. How to teach a 2-year-old how to share? I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue. You just have to be there and make sure they don't take something away from another child, but you got to be right there. They don't really get it. They're just too, yeah. Teaching a 2-year-old how to share. It's like saying, how do I prepare a 2-year-old for the new baby coming into the house? I don't have a clue. How could you possibly prepare a toddler for having to share their parents? That's basically, how do they share? How do they share their parents? I don't know. They supervise them like crazy so they don't throw the baby on the floor like so many of them do. Okay. What should I do if a 14-year-old is throwing things as a tantrum? Okay, there's more going on there. You're not handling that behavior. You got to work on your leadership skills. That's a result of you got to work on your leadership skills. That's coaching. You got to hire me for that. You got to set yourself up as a calm leader for your teenager. I'm assuming that you're escalating things, not de-escalating them. You got to learn how to de-escalate with teenagers. And don't sweat the small stuff, just the big stuff. But if they're throwing things in anger, yeah, that's kind of a next level. I wouldn't want that. I would. If you want to work with me, you'd have to hire me for that. Okay. A 3-year-old throwing a fit in a restaurant. Do you take them outside? Yes, please. Do not do that to other restaurant people. Do not do that to other patrons. Take them outside. Let them have a fit in the parking lot. How to stop a demanding 3-year-old? Yells, no, and now. That just means it's just a direct, that's a tell. It means they don't respect you. Work on your leadership skills. That will not happen. My 12-year-old is straight A student, good at home, but bad at school. Why? That doesn't make any sense unless there's something going on at school. Usually it's the other way around. They're good at school and bad at home. So I don't know what's going on there. I'd have to assess that situation to figure it out. Something's happening. Doesn't necessarily mean it's something horrible, but something's going on at school that they don't like. So it's usually social stuff. 12 years old, yeah, they're tween, social stuff. Does the course you're starting also include coaching? Yeah, I meant to put it out today. I just got scared. I don't know why. I just thought, oh God, it's my baby. I'm really ready to put it out there. I was going to get it out today, but yeah, I didn't. Yeah, it's coaching. It's got group coaching, which is fantastic because you've got each other to talk to, see what's going on with each other. I just went through it, and there were 9 going through it. And at first there was 1 that talked a lot, I think. Then there was 2. By the end, they were all talking because I guess they thought, well, I don't want to talk about all the things I'm doing wrong. By the end of it, they're all talking about the stuff they're doing wrong, and everyone else is doing it wrong too. And like, it's just fun, right? So yeah, it's group coaching. I'm really excited. I should get it out, shouldn't I? I don't know why. I'm just like, I'm hanging on to it. But yeah, we'll definitely be coaching. That's the good part. I didn't know how that was going to go. I thought, how on earth is that going to be as good as private coaching, one-on-one? The crisis stuff will always be private coaching, but it actually in some ways is better because they get to see each other. You know, you're not the only one going through this. And everyone they're all nice looking, normal, successful people. It's not like they're a bunch of losers or anything. I mean, they're all normal people. So, but yeah, they were you could see them looking at each other in that first session. Oh, wait, I'm not alone here. I'm not the only one going through this. And it's varying degrees of success depending on whether or not you've got full custody. You know, you don't always have your kids all the time if you've got shared custody with someone, or it depends on the ages and the dynamics. And if both parents are on board, usually one parent's doing better than the other parent in a family, and then they're learning from the other. And it's just interesting to see all the different dynamics because this is people that we're talking about, right? Yes, you're totally ready. Yeah, I pained over that all day long today. I pained over it. I didn't want to give it up. Oh, why is that? Psychology. Kids are so easy for me to figure out. I think I know myself pretty well. And I was talking to my daughter about it, and she goes, Mom, this is your baby. You're putting this course out. She knows the blood, sweat, and tears I put into this course. And she said, this is your baby. And yeah, it's hard to just go, off you go. It's like when your kids move out. That's how it feels. I'm crazy. Okay. Toddler constantly scared of the dark, rain, insects, phobia. Would she need counseling? A toddler? So this is a 1 or 2 year old? I don't know what's going on there. And counseling for a toddler, not, I don't want to say no, but I don't know really about that. I don't know. And what's your reaction? Um, I'll tell you a funny story. This has nothing to do with that, but it's just spiders reminded me of that. We lived in Australia. My kids grew up there, and I was there for about 20 years. So anyway, I don't mind spiders at all. They don't bother me at all. And I was the spider catcher in the family. Their dad, not so much. So, but the spiders there, the smaller ones tend to be the dangerous ones. But anyway, you have to check the outdoor furniture. You have to turn everything over so before you go outside and all that. Anyway, there's this one type of spider that's completely harmless. Kind of looks like a tarantula. I mean, it's huge, but its legs are more wide, flatter and wide spreading. Now, it's so big, it's like a side plate, like a bread and butter plate. And it's so huge that when it's quiet at nighttime, you can hear it tapping down the hallway. It's that big. So anyway, that was my job to get this spider. So what I would do was I'd get like a big bowl and I'd put it over top. It would stop for a while and then it would race off. So when it stopped, you can actually catch it. It didn't always run away when you were trying to catch it. So you put the bowl over it, then you get cardboard and slide it underneath and you can feel its feet trying to move, like it's that big. So you can feel it and then you pick it up. Here's the weird thing about that thing. I always threw it out in the front yard because the kids played in the backyard. So I always threw it out in the front yard. The kids would open up the door. Their dad would open up the door. I'd go out in the front yard with it. This is the funny thing. When you throw this particular spider, it has a honing device or a homing device. I don't know what it's called. When you throw it, it runs back to where it came. So I'd throw the bowl and the cardboard and the spider like that. And then I'd run back in the house and the kids would be screaming, "Run, Mom, run." It'd be chasing me. And then we'd shut the door and it'd be hanging on like this. Anyway, didn't bother me at all. I might have to close those blinds. I was telling the story a while ago, and someone said they hate spiders so much they felt nauseous when I told that story. Yeah, I don't mind spiders. Okay. Oh, I don't know the kind of spider. I don't know. We had a lot of redbacks, though. It was in Queensland, and redback spiders are everywhere. They like to go in shoes, and all of our shoes were out in the front door. So we'd sort of tap the shoes and make sure there was no redbacks in there. So, and they can kill a small child, a redback spider bite. But you know, I got an ant bite there once. I can't remember the name of it, but I got an ant bite there once, and it was agony. I felt like my whole foot was going to go fall off. It was so painful. The weird part was, and I remember the friend's house I was at, they had a very dry lawn and there was an ant nest evidently. I didn't know this. And everyone knows where the ant nests are because they're so painful. And it bit me in the foot. It left no mark, no redness, no swelling. And it was agony. You couldn't even see where it had bit me, but it was agony. And then you get other ant bites and you can see it and it doesn't even hurt as much. That was really weird. Another thing that happened was a brown snake. I didn't know this, but when they've got a nest, they defend it. And you're supposed to call the snake police. They come out literally within an hour. They're out there and they take it away. Anyway, this thing gets up like this and it's up and it chases you if you go anywhere near its nest. And it chased me pushing a pram with a baby in it and the dog running after me. And it was chasing us, this brown snake, up on its back half of the body was on the ground and the top half was like that. And it was fast. Anyway, the snake police were out within an hour and they took the whole nest away. Those things will kill you. But yeah, Australia's got lots of fun stuff there. Enough about that. Okay. Badass. Yeah, that snake. If you saw me running and screaming, you wouldn't have said that. I am with spiders, but not with that snake. And all the neighbors it was actually a neighbor saw it happening and they called the snake police. It's that big of a deal when that happened. I didn't know that. I knew nothing about brown snakes. It was after that they said, "Oh yeah, you always call someone to come out and take those away." So I don't know. It was just in the bike path. Ugh, okay, sorry about that. I went off on my bug and snake story. Uh, okay, so she's 4 going on 5. Oh, you said toddler. Okay, a toddler to me is 1 and 2. 3 and 4 is a preschooler. 5 is a school age. So that's how in my head. She's 4 going on 5. So scared that it's interfering with her daily routine. It started with flies. She could very well have some form of OCD. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You'd have to assess. I'm not a professional with that, but there are signs of OCD. Actually, I know someone who has it. So I always thought I did because I'm really fussy with cleaning, but I'm not, because it doesn't psychologically affect me. It just makes me go, oof, I have to have a clean home. But yeah, OCD could potentially, it can start very, very young. I might have to close that. I'll be right back. Here we go. Okay, I'm back. Oh my goodness. You're going to hate my answer. 4-year-old daredevil that can talk her way out of everything. Tips on how to reason with strong-willed. So in other words, she's in charge. I can't answer that. You're allowing a 4-year-old to be in charge and you want my help? Don't let her be in charge. Like, use my behavior board. You said she can talk her way out of everything. So she's totally in charge. You don't want that. You're going to head down a real scary path with her down the road. So yeah, just don't allow that. Don't allow her to be in charge. You want to be the leader, not her. You call them danger noodles. Snakes? Danger noodles. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Love your behavior board. Excellent. Tons of people get success with that on their own. If you're struggling with it and it's not working, you might have to hire me, because there's all sorts of other stuff that goes. That's just one tiny thing of what I do. That's actually, I started my business, I think 17 years ago. For the first year, I didn't have that behavior board. And I thought, how do I get this across to parents? They have to be accountable too. You're setting an example. You can't just expect them to do what you want. You have to also be accountable, right? So then I invented that behavior board and threw the parents on there. I haven't changed it in 16 years. It just works. Because I'm not teaching kids here, I'm teaching parents. I'm teaching you how to be a leader. A leader is accountable. 3-year-old is hitting. They learned it at kindy. Yeah, and by the way, they pick up on it, but they're either built to hit or they're not. It's like tantrums. Kids are either going to hit or they're not. Kids are going to climb or they're not. There's just certain things that we have in us and we don't. So yeah, they may have just seen it there, but they didn't learn it there. I know that, so you're not going to like that, but it's true. They went, I like that. So they just saw it there. They would have seen it eventually. Anyway, and how do you know that the other kid taught that to your kid? Like, kids who hit often, maybe they taught the other kids. So just deal with it. Say no hitting and put it on the behavior board. Just make it a rule. No hitting. Like, that's not something that's okay to do. So have a consequence for that. My 2-year-old always wants to be held. I love her dearly, but sometimes wish I knew. My daughter was very clingy with me, and she just was really a mummy's girl. And so what I did was I got her started with stuff, then I'd get up and walk away. That's how I did it. I'd get her started. Oh, and this and that, and we'll do that. And here's some Play-Doh or whatever it was. And then I'd get up and I'd be nearby, but I'd be washing dishes or something. But yeah, I got her started with stuff. Then I walked away, and she eventually learned. Then as she got older, then as my kids she got older, then she just learned. But yeah, you have to sort of teach them that. It's okay to do something on your own. Also, I started both my kids in the daycare at the gym because I worked out every day. So once they were up on their feet, I got back to the gym big time. And I love that. That was like, I still go to the gym every day. I love it. So they just learned, you got to go in gym daycare. My son used to cry on weekends because he couldn't go to gym daycare. That was his social life. He loved it. My daughter didn't. She never liked it, but she learned, So yeah, she went in gym daycare every single day. But I ended up working, I used to teach aerobics and that. And I ended up working in this one gym, which she liked way better than the others because it had a window and she could see me when I was up on stage. So she could see, and she was better, but I couldn't even look at her because this is all I saw. She was just staring at me. It was heartbreaking, but it's good for them. You don't want them to be clingy, but you still don't want to push them away. But it's okay that they learn that you can't be with them every single second. It's more of a girl thing, I think. Also, with my son, I had a sewing room. I made all of our clothes. And so in the sewing room, it was a separate bedroom that I used just for sewing. And I put a gate up when my son was little. And he would bring all of his toys up against the gate and play there. He was happy sitting there playing, chatting with me, and we'd be chatting. My daughter would just stand there like this, hanging onto the gate with her. She never cried or tantrumed or anything. She was a very easy child, but she wanted to be with me all the time. She would just sit there hanging onto the gate like this, looking at me because she just wanted to be really close to me all the time. Jeez. Anyway, so what I ended up doing, she was such an easy little child. I would let her in and I just planned a bunch of toys right at my feet and she'd sit and play right at my feet. But anyway, so yeah, some of them are just more clingy than others. So yeah, I had to work around that. I felt sorry for her. Okay. My 2.5-year-old is starting to throw really bad tantrums. I feel defeated and don't know what to do. I have tons of videos on tantrums. I have a whole playlist on toddlers, and it'll go into that great detail. Also, I have a course on my website, bratbusters.com, and it's called Toddler Tantrum Busting or something. It's just a little mini course. It's $29, and it goes into great detail about tantrums. They're just going to go through them. You just have to learn how to ignore them, and they will eventually peter out. But yeah, some kid, my son had them, my daughter didn't. They're either going to have them or they're not. They're either going to climb or they're not. They're either going to hit or they're not. There's certain tendencies that they are just born to do, and tantrums is one of them. There's another one too. It's hitting, tantruming, climbing. What's the other one? I think there's a third or fourth one. Anyway, can't remember. Oh, thank you. I know I'll miss these days. Yes, you will. My kids are grown and gone, and parenting was the most fun I ever had in my life. So I miss it. But I'll have grandkids in the next couple of years probably, and that'll be a whole other thing. So, and actually, I've enjoyed this time between. Both my kids are really into their jobs, and I've really enjoyed this time without kids around because we get to all get together and play games, play cards as adults. So it's kind of nice that we get all that time. They're all grown up now, and it's good. It's all part of it. I never pined for grandkids. I pined for kids. I wanted to be a mother so bad because to me, grandkids is like car rentals. They're not yours. You're just sort of renting them for a while. So, and I don't, it's like home. It's like renting a home compared to owning a home. It's like I knew I wanted to be a mother because they were with me full time. They're just sort of mine. But with grandkids, you're just sort of renting them. And I know a lot of people want that, but I wallowed in parenting. But yeah, I can't imagine enjoying grandparenting as much as parenting. And I knew someone else who was like me. They loved mothering as much as I did. And they said they got tons of grandkids. And she said it's not the same because they go home. You don't get to keep them. I know I'll love them. Running, biting. So you got a runner, put them on a leash, put them on a restraint, on a harness. You just want to keep them alive, okay? That's the running, you're right. Yeah, you're right. That was it, running. Thank you. Jeez. That's what you were saying. Running. So they're either born to run, they're born to climb, they're born to hit, and they're born to tantrum. It doesn't mean that they're rotten kids. It just means they just have these tendencies. It opens up the door for this stuff, and you can train them out of it. But yeah, I was talking to a client, and they said my kid does all four, like running, like running away from you, running, climbing, bite or hitting, biting, and tantruming. It's funny. It doesn't mean they're rotten kids. They're going to try stuff, right? My second was born to do all those. The only thing my kids did, my son tantrumed, and that was it. They didn't do any of the other stuff. I got off pretty easy with my kids. But I worked with kids that did all that for sure. I love parenting. Yeah, it was fun. It was so much freaking fun. And people used to say all the time, they said, all we ever saw when you drove by had a little blue RAV4 when they first came out and they had that bumper car look. I love that vehicle. Anyway, they said, all we ever saw was you and your kids like this. Just laughing all the time. I just loved parenting. It was so much fun. But I got all that pesky, I worked for that. I earned that. That ease. I got mutual respect going when they were tiny. So I could sail through and just enjoy them. It's doable. Anyone can do it. Oh, you're asking me about your nieces? I don't teach aunting or uncling. I don't. I never would tell someone else how to manage someone else's kids. That's I only teach parenting. What to do when a child cries after I get his attention, gets emotional, cries, and he can't breathe? I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know how old they are. Are they 16, 6 months? I don't know what you mean by that. Okay. What can I do to work on my patience? This is one of those things you got to put in the effort before you get the reward. So you got to fake it till you make it, and it gets easier. This is what parents tell me all the time. Yeah, easy for you, Lisa. You know what you're doing. And I say, yeah, but once you do, then it's going to be easy for you too. You just got to learn this skill. It is a skill, being patient or faking it. Now, when I was mentoring troubled teens, do you think that I was patient and calm all the time? No. Did I show that I wasn't? No way. I never let them see my underbelly. I was very, very careful with that. So yeah, never let them see a sweat. I won't go into it, but it was difficult when I was learning how to do that with troubled teenagers. It was very challenging. They taught me more about myself and life and patience and tolerance than anyone else ever taught me. I think I was a more judgmental person before I met them. Like, why would you act like that? What the hell's going on? But then when I understood where they came from, the abusive backgrounds or whatever, then I just had nothing but compassion for them and made it easier. But yeah, patience it's a learned behavior. You got to teach yourself how to do it. It gets easier. Yeah, they do grow out of tantrums. But if they don't, you got to work on your leadership skills. Sometimes they're teenagers and they're still having tantrums. Yeah, climbers scare me. Actually, climbers scare me probably more than any of them because runners, you can put them on a leash. Hitting, you can deal with that. Climbing, I've often told this story. I had a client who said just was terrified. Couldn't find, I think it was an 18-month-old, couldn't find this little kid anywhere in the house. All the doors and windows were locked, so she knew it had to be in the house. I say it because I don't know, I can't remember if it was a boy or a girl. Anyway, she found this kid. She was looking everywhere. She was starting to panic and she was in the kitchen. She was just going to call the police or something. I mean, she was panicking. And she thought, anyway, I don't know what she was thinking. She heard giggling, I think, and she looked up. This kid was on top of the fridge. They had climbed up using the drawers, then they got on the counter. Then there was, I think, a bread maker and got on top of the fridge. What if that kid had fell off and landed on their head? How scary is that, eh? Okay. The tantrums are so hard sometimes I just want to cry. Yep, absolutely. Toddlers, it's just a very short period in their life. You're going to look back at that and go, oh, yeah, they're just crazy. They're just crazy. You got to suffer through it. That's all. My son's tantrums drove me nuts. I hated them, but just ignored them and they eventually petered out. It doesn't happen in a week, though. It took like a couple of years before he stopped having them. Like they just, you know, but then they do lessen in intensity, frequency, and duration. Thank you for whoever told me the word duration. I could never figure it out. I kept calling it length of time. But yeah, they will eventually peter out. Someone said I tried everything. Well, I get that a lot in coaching, and like when I'm doing private coaching, they say I've tried everything. Well, and they say I even tried your behavior board. Well, how long did you do it? Like it takes time. You got to invest the time in this. It's consistency because they remember the old you. If you're trying to be the new you, it's going to take a while. My daughter's tantrum spilled into teenage years. Yeah, that usually turns into attitude. The thing is that as soon as you see that start to happen, you disengage and say, "Oh, we'll discuss this later." So you got to learn how to what's it called? So it's the opposite of accelerating. You got to decelerate. Is that right? Decelerate. I think I called it de-accelerate once, and someone said, "I think it's decel." Anyway, I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about, but you know what I mean. You got to learn how to diffuse. That's what I use. The word diffuse. You got to learn how to diffuse that stuff and just say, "I'll tell you what. We'll talk about it later." But yeah, do you teach sleeping in their own beds? Yeah. What to do if my teenager has too many extracurricular activities and is getting stressed? That's something that used to be more of a problem, overscheduling. Now I think parents understand that they also need downtime. So I would say, look, you've got these 4 activities that you're involved in. Can we cut one? because you don't want them to be go into something and not putting their all into it. So just say, look, can we cut this out? How about this? How about that? What brings you the most joy? What might lead you more into the future? Like, or what's just fun that you really enjoy that you want, So yeah, maybe just cut something out. De-escalate. Diffuse is that. Diffuse isn't even as good a word as de-escalate because you want to go the other way. Diffusing just means calm it down, but de-escalate, yeah. Thank you. I get a lot of people helping me out on here. What is that word I'm looking for? How to support kids that are yelled at their house all the time. I can't help you with that. I don't know what position you're in. Are you a teacher? Are you a mentor? Are you an aunt, an uncle? I don't know. And I teach parenting. I don't teach other people how to help other kids. You see what I mean? I teach parenting. So I stay in my lane. How do you get your toddlers to obey? My son is very defiant. Oh, I do not get kids to obey. That's a good one. Oh, sugar. What the heck? My computer's slow. Just a sec. Don't you don't want kids to obey you. You don't. Sorry, I got to do a video on this. Want kids to obey you. Yeah, we're not looking for obedient little soldiers here. You don't want that. You want them to make good choices. So they learn that, hey, wait, you make a bad choice, there's a consequence. So you don't want them to obey you. Like I never really told my kids what to do. My mom never told me what to do, but she guided me in a direction where I made good decisions because if I made a bad one, this is the look I got. And I hated that look from my mom. I respected my mom. So she was a leader. She wasn't as strict as I was. She let a lot more go than I would let go. But yeah, I hated that disappointment from my mom. Oh, I hated it. So yeah, you guide them into making good choices. Because if they don't, there's a consequence. That's your job. So they're not obeying you. They're just making good choices. You don't want obedient little soldiers. That's the old-fashioned authority. I'm not saying that you meant that, because now you're going to go, well, I didn't really mean that. I get that, but I just want to drive that point home. That's the old authority style parent. You do what I say when I say because I'm the boss and I know everything. I don't do any of that. Yeah, that's the old style. But yeah, you want them to learn how to make good choices. So they're self-disciplining. Not at 2, they're not going to do that, but that's the whole idea. You're guiding them into making good choices. How did you have dinner? My 18-month-old won't sit and eat. Should I hand feed or let him do it? Well, my kids were strapped into a high chair and they didn't have a choice. We're sitting down to eat and that's it. We're all sitting there and we're going to eat together. So I sat with them and ate. Or I might feed them off to the side, but they knew when mom strapped them into something, they knew. Like it was like a car seat. They knew. So yeah, they just learned. Also, sometimes with toddlers, this is a little bit controversial because I'm not a nutritionist, so I don't want to say too much about it. But I think that toddlers are more grazers. They don't really like meals. They like a lot of little snacks rather than 3 big meals. So they do tend to be, maybe they're just not that hungry when they sit. I didn't give my kids a lot of snacks, or if I did, they were really light snacks, like maybe some apple. So when they had a meal, they were hungry by the time they sat down in that high chair. So I'm suggesting maybe your 18-month-old isn't that hungry because they've had too many snacks, potentially. Yeah, okay. Miranda, how old are your kids? You said, I never know if I'm doing the right thing. Seems like it comes easier for some. It's so hard. It's like everything. Some things are easier. You should see me when it comes to tax time. I don't understand taxes. I understand more than I let on I do, but I really, that does not come easy to me, and it probably comes easier to other people. So yeah, there's certain things that just come easier to some people, and that's okay. But it's a skill you can learn. This is a learnable skill. Parenting is not like you're just born. I was born to do it for sure. This is my thing. That's why I teach it. I was always studying kids, but I wasn't just born knowing all this. I was working, I was mentoring, I was volunteering in daycare centers at 11 years old. So I was teaching myself this at a very young age. I was always trying to figure kids out. I was trying to mother all the kids in the neighborhood too. Anyway, so that was my thing, but it's a learnable skill. That's why I teach this. It's learnable. You think my clients come to me and say, actually, I'm pretty good at all this stuff. I just want a little touch up. No, they don't. They go, oh, I'm falling apart. I can't handle it. But then they learn. It's a learnable skill. Well, do you get your children to listen to you? I mean, I don't want him to be an obedient soldier. Well, what you do is because there's a rule and a consequence, the behavior board is sort of his guide. It's like a rule book. And you say, well, there's the rule and you broke it, so there's a consequence. It's on there. You're guiding them into making good decisions. When you get good at this, you're sort of becoming a leader and they start to respect you and they want to please you. That's where it goes. When you're a good leader, young children want to please you and teenagers just don't want to disappoint you. You don't want to be their leader so much anymore, but you want to be there as a guide when they need it. So they'll come to you and ask your advice. But yeah, teenagers are a little bit different. But anyway, yeah, you want them to make good choices, so you know how to guide them to do that. But then you become the leader and they just want to please you. And they know how to do it. They'd be polite, they'd be nice, they're kind, My son was in grade 2 and his teacher called me at her lunch hour to tell me this. She thought this was so cute. She goes, Lisa, because I was always in school, all the teachers knew me. So she goes, Lisa, you won't believe what your son said. He was in grade 2 and she said to him, why are you so nice? And he looked up at her and he says, Mommy makes us be nice. And I'm like, you're darn rights I do. That's my job. I was very good at with tantrums too. He had tantrums. You ignore that crazy stuff and you reward the calm with attention. So I was always sort of rewarding the good stuff. So not by giving them candy or anything, but just by saying, "Oh, let's go do that. Let's go do this." So, but I would never engage with a child who was acting out. And they just learn, wait a minute, acting out gets me no attention from that mother, so I may as well be nice and polite, right? They learn another way. What's your thoughts on sibling physical violence? That depends the ages and what kind of parent you are. So why have you not got unity going on in the family? What's going on with that? So I'd have to figure out ways. Usually, when you get family unity, you got to do stuff together, but it's carefully plotted out. Sort of. It's not just you don't just go to Disneyland with the kids to make them closer. It's look at that. I just did a video a couple days or yesterday, and it was called it just gives you an idea of how I really bonded with my kids, and they were 5 years apart, a boy and a girl, so they didn't have a lot in common, but they became very bonded through this thing that we did every single day. The video is how I had fun with my kids, and it just gives you an idea of how you get kids to be closer. God, I miss those days. So much fun. How to teach and encourage empathy. 11-year-old girl could not care less if I heard. Yeah, they're very self-absorbed, but you just got to teach them how to fake it till they make it kind of thing. You just got to teach them how to make good choices. And if they're treat other people like crap, you got to put something on the board, like quit hitting your sister, You just got to sort of fake it, get them to fake it till they make it. They are very self-absorbed. They're very selfish. They're very egotistical. They're very narcissistic. We all were. It's part of growing up. Okay. Yeah, it takes a lot of energy to grow up, and that's a tween. 11-year-old is a tween, so hormones are probably kicking in too. Plus, do they respect you? What kind of parent are you? Are you a leader? They usually are more inclined to have empathy if you're a leader. Not always, but they're more inclined. So your leadership is everything. It's like having a really good sports coach. If you've got a really good leader as a parent, it's the same kind of relationship like a sports coach. That coach is fun. They make sure you have fun. They love kids. They have rules. If you break the rule, you're sitting on the bench for an inning. You see, it's like that. It's that kind of relationship. They kind of want to please you because you're fun. She's got 4 parents and we're all different. I'll tell you a little secret. They're very drawn to the leader. The leader is also the one they go to all the time. The leader's not the tough one. The leader's the one that they are most drawn to. It's just the way it is. It's that. Have you ever had a mentor, like a really good sports coach, someone that you just really look up to and you want to please? That's what that's like, that leadership parenting. So they're very drawn to the leader. They're more inclined to be following your guidance than anybody else's, no matter how many people they have in their life. Like someone said to me, because I've often talked about my ex-husband and how we were so different. And we call him the treat master. And he just loved all that, giving the treats and all that. I was very much in charge. I was the leader for sure. And that's the way it goes. There's usually one parent who's the leader and the other one who's the treat master. It's just sort of yin and yang. And it works, right? It's good. My parents were like that. My mom was the leader. My dad was the treat master. So the pleaser, the one that just doesn't want to discipline and all that. And that's nothing wrong with that. As long as they've got a leader, they only need one. Anyway, so the way we managed it is he noticed that when I wasn't around, when the kids were little, they would push him more. And he said, well, how do I manage that? And I didn't want to mess them up. I wanted to do all the disciplining. So I said to him, just say, do you want me to tell mom? And that's all he had to say. Do you want me to tell mom? No. I never even did anything, but you only need one good leader. So they're very drawn to that. They tend to just be more, they're under your umbrella more, the leadership umbrella. They take that everywhere. Like, for example, as they started getting older and they'd go out with dad and he'd try and get them a treat that they knew because I'm really into health food, and they knew I wouldn't want them to have that, they'd say mom wouldn't want that. So, or else if he did get them something, they couldn't wait to get home and tell me, guess what daddy got us? And I go, oh, daddy, did you do that? It's just fun. So you don't all have to be leaders. You just need one. It doesn't mean that they love you more. It's just that you're the one that they turn to because you're the leader. All children need that. Dealing with a 5-year-old sassy attitude, got to work on your leadership skills. That's a tell. They're not sassy with a leader. They just aren't. So work on your leadership skills. That's all it is. Someone said it's free. Is that the behavior board? Yeah, it's free. Oh, do we have to pay? No, behavior board's free. It is free. You don't have to pay for it. You have to sign up to Podia, where it's hosted on Podia, which is an online course site. Like, what's that? There's a real big one. I always want to call it shareholder, but it's not. Anyway, it's a place that hosts online courses, and you have to sign up for that, but it's all free. And also, you don't even have to subscribe to a mailing list with that. You have a choice of doing it, but you're going to miss out. I've only sent out one newsletter, but you're going to miss out on offers and that coming up if you don't subscribe. But that's fine if you don't want to hear from me. It's fine. I'll tell you a funny story, like why I'm happy to have that out there for free. It's a very long, it's convoluted story. Anyway, someone said, they hadn't watched me for very long, and anyway, I got into a chat with them, and they said, well, your behavior board, or you've got a behavior board, and they said, you stole that off so-and-so, and it was someone who's a professional. They had stolen my behavior board. It was mine. I know they stole it because I actually contacted them and they were selling it. And I said, you're selling my free behavior board. And they were actually selling it, and it was mine. Everything on there, it was all mine because I invented that, putting the parents on it. So it just struck me as funny. I'm sure they made a lot of money off my free behavior board. Whatever. Mine is free. Okay. What to do? God, I love this question. I don't know why this strikes me so funny. What to do if my teenager is coming home from school acting suspicious? Tried to talk to them. What do you mean they had a trench coat and they were looking around like this? Yeah, good luck with that. I don't know your relationship, but if they, tried talking to them. If they came home and says, I need context. I need to assess that whole situation. I need to know what kind of parent you are, what kind of relationship you have. Because you can't just say, what's going on? You look suspicious. I'll tell you a funny story though. My son got moody when he was about 15. And I often tell this story how, every morning I'd get up and he'd be in the kitchen, and he was 14. And I'd go, morning, sweetie, morning, mom. And one day, he was 15. One day I get up, morning, sweetie, morning, mom. He just turned into a man overnight. And all of a sudden we weren't chatting like we were. He wasn't giggling as much. He was just turning into a man, right? It really threw me off. So I knew it was coming, but anyway, it threw me off. So anyway, what was my story? Oh, sure. Oh, I always said to my kids, I completely respect your privacy, but I wanted to have all of their passwords to everything. I said, if anyone ever steals or takes you, or, I need to know all your passcodes. I can't remember. I think I had them all, but I never breached that. I said, the only time I'll ever breach your privacy is if I'm worried about you. So my son was getting moodier and more quiet. And I said, and he was hanging out with a rougher crowd. He started dressing gothic, listening to heavy metal. I mean, and I'm like Mary Poppins. I mean, like, listening to Olivia Newton-John. And I mean, it's just totally, and it just sort of didn't fit in. And I thought, what's going on? He was hanging out with a rougher crowd. So I said to him, are you doing drugs or anything? And he says, no. And so I rifled through his room one day. I mean, I completely tore it apart. I was looking for drugs. And because he was just so different. So I was up turning drawers, looking for things taped under drawers. I mean, I'm not stupid. I know where teenagers hide things. I didn't find anything, of course. He wasn't doing anything. And so he comes home and I'm passed out on his bed. I'd fallen asleep and I was covered in all of his stuff. He opened up his bedroom door, saw me, and said, well, aren't you a pretty sight? And then he walked away laughing. So, yeah, they're going to do stuff. He was acting suspicious, but he wasn't doing anything. But I had a good relationship with him, but I still rifled through his room. I mean, but you got to have that relationship. You can't just do that. You have to have told them ahead of time. If I ever think you're doing anything dangerous, you have no privacy with me whatsoever. I'd always told them that. So it didn't bother him that he thought that was funny. And then he got a really clean, organized room after that. So yeah, I got to figure out what kind of parent you are before I could tell you how to move forward, because you got to move forward kind of with caution. Unless you've got that good relationship like I had, I just threw myself in there. Turns out he wasn't doing anything. How do you know what consequences to use? Look at my behavior board to give you some ideas. And it's too broad of a question. Like, it's nice if the punishment can fit the crime, but it's not always possible. So like if they hit a younger sibling, then they have to share their favorite toy with that younger sibling for the rest of the day or something like that. But you can't always do that. It's not even really what the consequence is about. It's just the act of having a consequence. That's the important thing. And you following through. It's all about you. And but yeah. Okay, my mouth is starting to go dry, so I got to go. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. My website is bratbusters.com, and you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. And that's on my homepage. It's completely free, and it teaches you how to give respect to get it. That's why it works so well, because it's mutual. You got to give to get, right? You got to give first, by the way. Okay, I'll do one more question before I got to go. How does one work on their leadership skills? That is on my behavior board. That's how you get started. A lot of it's body language. Few people have asked me to talk more about body language, and I did a video a while ago. And what was it? It was about, I'm just trying to find it. Oh, how to talk when disciplining. Take a look at that. It sort of shows my body language. Like when I'm disciplining, I'm quiet, I'm almost whispering. It's like a business transaction. No emotion whatsoever. None. But the rest of the time, I'm fun and goofy. So just have fun with your kids. But when they act out, shut that down right away and say, I didn't like that. So here's what's going to happen. So that's sort of the idea behind it. But yeah, you want to be fun. You want to have fun with your kids. That's part of it. You can't just always be business-like and disciplining. You got to mix it with a lot of fun. It should be like 95% fun and 5% disciplining. So anyway, I got to run. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow. Bye now.